Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. It is episode number 28 and the 16th episode here in the second semester. My name is Matt Menzel, and on this edition, in segment number 2, we talk outdoor track and field that with junior Gideon Kane, as the Falcons will be at Wisconsin Lutheran on Friday and Saturday for the 2021 NAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships. But first, we talk softball. The Falcons, the NAC North Division regular season champs, and hopefully will be tournament champs by the end of the weekend. And talking with junior right-handed pitcher Gina Followell, fresh off a series in which the Falcons took 3 of 4 against the Lakeland University Muskies. And speaking of the NAC North Division tournament, which will be in Fond du Lac, it starts with the Muskies on Thursday, and that's a 7 o'clock first pitch. And Gina, let's start there talking about the Lakeland and just how excited I guess you are to get the opportunity to be back in a tournament format, playing for a tournament title, trying to help the Falcons win their first tournament title since 2009.
Yeah, it's very exciting to be able to go back, especially since last year we were expecting to get there again. And then having Lakeland for the 5th time in a row. we haven't had a practice since we practiced today. And I assume we're going to be focused on everything that they have done against us, trying to one-up them since they did beat us in our last game, making sure we're on top of our base running, our pitch calls, so they're trying to do something different maybe so that they're not expecting it. That would be good.
So what do you think were the keys, or what was the difference in allowing you guys to win 3 out of 4 against the Muskies this past weekend?
The difference for
Like,
them.
was it like timely hitting for you guys? How were you guys able to be successful in that series?
Yeah, definitely timely hitting, and all of our pitchers were definitely on point mostly. They just had one bunt in that third game that was able to get them to score placed perfectly. So I think if that in that fourth game, if we would have just had some more hits, we would have, or string together some hits, because we did hit, just not all together.
And knocking on the door in the 7th inning, bases were loaded with 2 outs down by a single run, so right there for the taking. But you mentioned pitching and the Falcon pitching staff, and obviously you're a big part of it. Phenomenal here this season. And on Friday, by knocking off Lakeland, the Falcons laid claim to the NAC North Division regular season title. You guys won the regular season championship in 2019 as well. When you kind of look back, and even this season included, what do those championships mean to you?
It's not as much about the championships for me. It's about the team chemistry, and I think having the team chemistry that we have, it has led us to make these great accomplishments of the championship and making it to the tournament, as well as being like Taylor Kusky was player of the week one week. Nikki Becker was pitcher of the week in the beginning of the season.
Well, you bring up, okay, you won the 2019 regular season championship. We talk about team chemistry, and there certainly were some key players from that team that have since graduated. And so obviously every year looks a little bit different. Coming into this spring, yeah, you want to win a championship. That's the goal when you go into the campaign. Were the expectations high? I mean, in your opinion, did you guys have high expectations coming into this season? Was it kind of I don't know what to expect, being that we didn't really get a chance to play last year? How would you?
It was kind of both, because I still felt like we were coming off of the 2019 season and we were still good. And then winning our 4 games in Finlandia last year felt like we have this chance to do it again. So that was exciting to be able to have that thought. But then we were also unsure because we lost some players last year that didn't get to play as seniors. So it was hard to know if we were going to be as good as we thought we would be.
Well, as we sit here, the team sits at 28-6. 18-2 was the final NAC North Division regular season record. And then on top of that, the Falcons have been ranked in the top 25 the last number of weeks. When you think about all that, what does come to mind, I guess, when you think about all the success this team has experienced so far?
I'm not really sure.
Well, has there been pressure there at all? I mean, you have had some big, matchups against MSOE, against Lakeland the last couple of weekends. Do you feel like there's pressure there that constantly have to go out there and perform at a high level, or is it, just been kind of fun and kind of go as you go?
There's a little bit of pressure, but it's definitely fun knowing that, like, as a pitcher, my defense behind me is going to make plays. I know my offense is going to get the runs that I need for them, even if I give up runs. I know that we're as good as we're going to be, and even we're going to get better from here, hopefully.
Now we get to brag about you because you've had a ridiculously amazing 2021 spring, and at one point you had recorded 10 plus strikeouts. It seemed like every outing, but in all 10 plus strikeouts in 9. You set the program single season record already for strikeouts. You've recorded at one point 4 consecutive no hitters. When you look at your pitching, what do you attribute that success to? What's been working for you this season?
Well, Claudia, my catcher, has called some amazing games. Every single game she has called behind the plate, and she gets me a lot of the strikeouts, definitely with her framing and blocking, even with keeping runs from scoring when there's runners on. And my defense also, like I said before. And then in my past, my pitching coach, Ashley Deck, she was definitely a big part in me becoming the pitcher that I am, as well as like my high school coaches and my travel coaches have just shaped me into the player that I am to be the way I am, I guess.
Well, I was going to ask you about Claudia Utz,
Mm-hmm.
your battery mate, only a sophomore, about 3 games or so she played in 2020. So that new battery combo last season, now, full time this year. How important is that pitcher catcher relationship, and how have you gone about, getting to know Claudia better, getting on the same page with her, because it is a relatively new combo, at least this season for you guys?
So Claudia and I actually live about 20 minutes away from each other, and we coached together this summer. So we pitched a lot over the summer, and she
Nice.
got to know my pitches and what I like to throw when, because we would throw live to our players. And so that alone probably helped with this season being the way that it's gone.
Well, I want to break down, Claudia being beyond the dish for the 4 consecutive no hitters. I want to break those down because you're about to be named the NAC North Division Pitcher of the Week for the 4th time already this season. And you look at some of the dominating performances. Let's start with April the 13th. You guys played Marion, 18 strikeouts, 0 walks. And I know all these games probably at this point run together. You play so many games in a short amount of time, but I don't know if you remember much about April the 13th, that 18 strikeout performance. But if you do, was there a certain pitch? Was there something that just was working that day that kept Marion off balance?
My rise ball was definitely the pitch that had them.
And,
Yeah.
and then you had them the next day, and you did it again to
Mhm.
Marion. You no hit the Sabres with 12 strikeouts, no walks. Was it the rise ball again, or was it something else?
I mixed pitches a little bit more that day, but mostly rise balls. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that. Okay, so when you look at the schedule this season, you guys, the way it's worked out, with this, COVID 2021 spring, they've mixed things up, and you play double headers against the same team back-to-back days,
Mhm.
home and away. Has that forced you to get a little more creative, being that you just saw the same lineup the day before?
Yeah, we have, as a pitching staff, we've decided to save pitches for the second day just so that they haven't seen everything. And that definitely helped with all of the every game that we've won on the second day.
Do you keep mental notes or write anything down? Like, do you know about, certain players in
Mhm.
the opposing lineups from one game to the next? Like, hey, this person, was able to hit me this way, so now I got to avoid that pitch.
Yeah, so we keep pitch charts, and we have like our pitchers that are not pitching at the time are charting, so they're watching where the ball's going and charting what pitches are the players are hitting. So that definitely, if I can't remember it off the top of my head, I go look at the chart, and um, that'll help me decide what I'm going to throw this player.
Well, no hitters 3 and 4 in a row came against Alverno, both April the 17th and April 18th. 14 strikeouts, no walks in the first game against the Inferno, and then 12 strikeouts and a walk in the second game against Alverno. Again, I guess I'll ask you, when you look at those 2 performances, what will work in those days?
Also, my rise ball. Yeah, definitely the pitch for those 4 games that had people on their heels.
And it's crazy because, okay, you fell 4 consecutive no hitters with a 1 hitter against a very good hitting MSOE lineup that, MSOE's been ranked in the top 25 throughout the course of the year. You had them off balance. When you look at those no hitters, though, were you always aware of what was going on, or is it one of those you're so into the game that, all of a sudden they tell you at the end, hey, you pitched a no hitter? I mean, do you know in the back of your mind what's going on?
The first game, I wasn't really like paying attention to it that much. I made a joke when the one error was made. I was like, "Oh, there goes the perfect game," but I didn't really pay attention to it much after that. But then the next three, I was definitely aware that it was happening because it had just happened. So, and then the perfect game, I was definitely very nervous. And going into the sixth, I was like, "Oh boy, I don't want to blow it."
Do you get the sense, from a pitching standpoint, outing to outing, when you have your good stuff, when it just seems like everything is just clicking versus, I feel a little bit off today, but I still got to find a way to work around it. Do you get those senses earlier to just, you just go out there and pitch?
Sometimes I get those senses in the bullpen, but I try to shake them off so I can focus on what I need to do and be the best pitcher I can be for my for my teammates.
How does your mindset or maybe demeanor change based on run support? It seems like some games you haven't gotten a ton of run support more recently. There have been some tight games against the likes of MSU and against Lakeland, but there have been other games where you've got plenty of run support. Does that take some of the pressure off when you have, a 5-6 run cushion behind you?
It definitely takes some pressure off, but I often put more pressure on myself even in those situations because I want to keep it a shutout sometimes.
Sure.
But I know that I need to take that pressure off when when we're definitely winning by a lot. But then when we have less runs on the board, there is a little more pressure, but I know that my defense is going to back me up, and I know that my offense will get runs if I let them score.
I want to kind of piggyback off that, okay? You talk about, pressure. We've talked to, it seems like every goalkeeper, goaltender on campus at various points throughout this show, and one of the questions I've always asked them is, you are the goalie or the goalkeeper. How do you go about, because, it's easy to point the finger when one of their teams loses and goes, oh, if the goalie would have made a couple of more saves, they win that game. And you can almost say the same thing about the pitcher where there can be a lot of pressure put on the pitcher. Well, if you make one, bad pitch, that can change the whole complexion of the game. How have you gone about it, or maybe you struggle with it now? I don't know. How do you go about making sure you don't have that mindset where you put so much pressure on yourself, knowing that it is a team game, that you're just one, in that equation, that it takes a lot more than that, and you don't put all that, weight of a win and a loss on your shoulders?
I used to put a lot of pressure on myself, and recently I just take a deep breath before every pitch because I know that what I'm doing is going to work, and that if the ball gets hit, my players are going to make the play, or we're going to make up for it with our bats.
Well, we mentioned 4 straight no-hitters this season. You had one last year before COVID-19 shut down the season. That came against Northland, in which you had a big number of strikeouts in that performance as well. Prior to, okay, so 5 no-hitters at least at Concordia. Prior to, hey, you pitched a no-hitter at all the prep level in your past?
I remember one for sure from high school, and then I think there was maybe a couple in my travel ball team. My dad knows all those stats. He keeps them all.
And we mentioned you almost had a no-hitter against MSU. A heck of a series, April 25th and the 26th, in which the Falcons took 3 out of 4 against then-ranked number 17 MSOE. And, the last time a conference tournament champion was crowned, it was the MSOE Raiders back in 2019. And I guess if you look at paper, obviously the game's not decided on paper, but it could be very, much up to Concordia against MSOE again this year, although Lakeland and Marion will have something to say about that. But you look at that Concordia MSOE series, at least for you, how intense was that series, those 4 games, being 2 ranked teams going at it, a lot on the line, and you guys were able to take 3 out of 4?
It was very intense. The dugouts were both screaming at the top of their lungs, me included. It was a lot of pressure also because I was coming off the 4 no-hitters, so I didn't want to give up another hit. But I did, and it didn't matter because we still won. And that's all that matters in the end, the W's. That's what Coach Steele always says. He doesn't care who gets the W's as long as we get them.
Well, speaking of W's, is there one W so far that sticks out or stands out among the rest to you?
Not really. I think all of them have been pretty equally exciting, especially when we had I think, was it a 15-game win streak?
Mm-hmm.
So putting them all together was just amazing.
A heck of a run here in 2021. You're from Romeoville, Illinois. Why Concordia? What brought you this direction?
So I was looking for a school that I would be able to do nursing and softball at the same time. and I was looking a bunch of places. A couple of them fell through, and then I found Concordia. I visited it. Coaches loved me. I loved them, and I just fell in love with the school, and everyone was so welcoming.
Well, you bring up nursing and then softball. A lot going on right now. How
Yeah.
crazy are your days right now with the school year winding down?
Well, now that I only have 2 finals left,
Nice.
so that right now it's fine. Last week was a little hectic, but it's been good. Having games on the weekends have definitely helped because I haven't really had to miss games for clinicals or leave early for my clinicals to get to games. So I really like the weekend schedule.
Well, and you look, okay, so you came from Romeoville, Illinois, came to Concordia, juggling nursing, juggling softball, and you had a heck of a 2019 freshman campaign. NAC Freshman of the Year, first team all conference. For you, okay, what was the biggest adjustment, going from the prep level, that competition, to the collegiate level, juggling? Obviously, you juggle a lot of school at the high school level too, but maybe more of a workload at the collegiate level. What was the biggest adjustment for you going from high school to college?
Having to do my homework. I didn't really have to do homework in high school,
Well, that must
and
have
I
been
was
nice.
yeah, I was able to get good grades without doing my homework. So getting all my homework done was the biggest adjustment my freshman year. And then from a softball standpoint, the adjusting to the collegiate level hitting as a pitcher was the biggest challenge.
What's your earliest memory of playing softball? Why did you get involved in the sport, and have you always been a pitcher?
I started pitching when I was 8, so pretty much. I started playing softball when I was 6. Um, I don't know the first memory of softball. My first travel memory was I was 12, and we played our first tournament in October. It was like Oktoberfest or something like that. And we played 7 games in one day.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a lot. So that's my first travel ball memory.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I was going to ask you, and I never got to it. You speak about, okay, pitching 7 games in one day, one of your earliest memories. Even from a college standpoint, it seems like, I mean, you're no stranger to pitching 100 plus pitches one day and coming right back the next day and doing it again. How are you able to do that? And what does the arm feel like after a long weekend of maybe 200 plus pitches?
I think I'm able to do it because of travel ball being like having to pitch 3 games in a day on a 95-degree weather. Um, and sometimes I'll get sore on after day 2. Usually I'm fine because I'll ice after and I'll be good. I'll take a nice hot shower to loosen up my muscles, and everything is usually fine. So that's
You find a way to
yeah.
make it work, and obviously the results have followed. Let's wrap it up. Okay, the NAC North Division tournament, as mentioned, will get underway on Thursday. Again, Marion's the host of the tourney. Lakeland is up first for the Falcons. Under the lights at 7 p.m. for that particular matchup. What goals do you have? I mean, what's your mindset, I guess, going into this weekend? If the Falcons to have success, what needs to happen?
We need to take it 1 game at a time. To make it to the end and win them all, we have to win one at a time and focus on one pitch at a time, one at bat at a time, one play. If you make a mistake, make the next play. That's what we have to focus on.
Let's hope for that 5th no-hitter of this season, too. Gina, I appreciate your time. All the best this weekend, and best of luck to the Falcon softball team on their quest to bring home a NAC North Division tournament title. And when we come back, we'll turn our attention to outdoor track and field and talk with Gideon Kane. You're tuning to Falcon Focus on CWFalcons.com.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. As we continue on this Tuesday, it is episode 28 and our 16th episode here in semester number 2. So many numbers, but about to throw some more numbers at you as we talk outdoor track and field, the NAC Championships taking place on Friday and Saturday from Robbie Stadium, Wisconsin Lutheran. That is in Wauwatosa, at least the Robbie Stadium is, and so they will host the event here this weekend. And one of those competing will be a thrower. Ian Jr. Gideon Kane kind enough to join us on this week's edition. And you came from Living Word Lutheran High School, and among other sports besides track and field, played football and basketball. So what made, I guess, for you track and field your sport at the collegiate level?
Yeah, well, I guess like going into high school, I did track and field kind of as like a supplement to football. You see a lot of linemen who do throwing, or just like how you see running backs running the running events. But I think after my sophomore year of high school, I really got into it as its own sport instead of it just being a way for me to improve from my other sports. I got to love the competition with myself above anything else. I get a chance to just kind of put it all on me. It's not necessarily, my performance isn't dependent on teammates. It's what I do to be where I'm at. And so going forward into college, I just really had a love of it coming out of high school. I knew that it was something that I want to keep doing. I want to be able to push myself, get those farther and farther marks. And as much as I love the other sports, they just kind of fell aside compared to track. I just really developed a strong love for it, and that's what I wanted to keep doing.
Well, you have good size, listed at 6'4", at least according to the website. Your dad, full disclosure, is the assistant coach for the men's basketball team. So was there ever any talk about maybe playing basketball here as well?
There was, and there was actually some talk to play football too.
No kidding.
Yeah, Coach Eder was recruiting me. I decided to focus on track. I wanted to get the best results as I could, and unfortunately basketball is during our indoor season. So I decided, just stick with track. After doing 3 sports in high school, I figured it was time to tone it down to just one, and track was definitely the top option.
And you're a thrower, so how did you come to the conclusion that, hey, that's, my area, or that's going to be my specialty? Is it something you're in the kitchen just throwing dishes? I mean, how do you figure out that you're going to be a thrower?
I mean, it goes hand in hand with like the weightlifting aspect. Not to say that the other events don't need as much weightlifting, but if you're a lifter and you want to do track and field, throwing is the event. It's all about power, strength, and explosiveness. And it really just kind of went well with kind of the type of athlete I was in high school, and I've just kind of worked and developed that. I never really have had much of a desire to be a runner or a jumper, but throwing has always just been fun because, I get to lift hard and I get to kind of work on my strength and explosiveness.
And at Concordia, your name is now all over the record book, and we'll talk about some of those records that have been falling. It seems like just when you set one record, guess what? You talked about it. You get to compete against yourself, if you will, and you've beaten yourself, and we'll talk about that as we go along. But in high school, you also set records, and you set the record for shot put your junior year, the discus your senior year. How exciting, how special is it for you, I guess, when you look back to know that you set the bar high, that you left your mark on that program?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm so thankful for that program. Coach Z, my football coach and track coach, really worked with all the throwers. I mean, he put so much time and effort in. He was not a thrower himself, but he learned it all. He put in a ton of work, and myself and a few others, were kind of like the breaking point for the program. We kind of got to break through. There was a girl ahead of me, Kaylee, who made it to state, and that was a big deal. She was the first field event from our high school to go to state. I was able to follow up my senior year with shot put in state. So it's really cool to put Living Word on the map, small little high school, to say that, yeah, we can compete with the bigger schools. And it is kind of cool that I have, kind of looking back, I have that record still there, kind of like something for the next one to break.
Sure.
To be great.
Records are meant to be broken. Now, you came to Concordia 2019, your freshman year, and indoor, as far as the championships go, second in shot put at the NAC championships. You finished third in the shot put in the outdoor NAC championships. I know I ask every athlete this, and we talked to Gina Followell during our first segment about it as well. And every sport, there's that adjustment. You go from the high school level to the collegiate level, and there's an adjustment period. Sometimes it's as simple as just the speed of the game is different. That's something you have to adjust to. How about when it comes to throwing events? What's the biggest adjustment you have to make from going from the prep level to the collegiate competition?
Yeah, instead of the speed of the game or speed of the event, it's the weight. So shot put in high school is 12 pounds, and the college weight's 16 pounds. So usually that does mean a larger shot put too, but the big difference there is the weight. Switching over to discus, however, it's 1.6 kilos in high school and 2 kilos in college, but the bigger difference is the diameter is bigger. So you really have to you have to work on your grip and your speed to make sure that you're getting a good release off the disc. But there's a long learning curve, especially for discus, I think.
Well, then your sophomore year in 2020 in the indoor NAC championship, finished in 4th place, but at that time a career mark, 13.75 meters. Outdoor season that was cut short thanks to COVID-19. With that being said, did you completely at that point just shut it down? Did throughout those months, did you somehow stay in shape? Throw things around the house. I mean, how do you go about just staying in that mindset? Because again, as every athlete will tell you, there were so many question marks coming into this school year as to win or win not. The season might start up again. You got to be almost ready at a moment's notice.
Yeah. So what I did, fortunately with throwing, it's already pretty socially distant. So when everything was shut down, even the weight rooms were closed, I was able to find some high school rings and get some throws in. So I really took some time to work on my throws by myself. And then when the weight rooms opened up again, I just got in there and I grinded as much as I could. Because I knew that if we came back, I would want to make the most out of this year because, as we learned, you're never guaranteed another season. So I tried to get the most I could.
So what were the goals, the mindset coming in? You mentioned, okay, make the most of it, but I guess did you set, some standards, or at least in your mind, some expectations for yourself coming into this spring?
Yeah, we came in for indoor, and at the first meet, I was a little upset with my performance because I wanted the school record. That was the first mark that I wanted. So that was the goal. I mean, I had a season off to just train and be in the weight room. So I put on myself to really get that shot record. That was kind of the motivator.
I'm getting afraid right now because you have a fly flying around right now, and I don't want this to become a meme because it's been a meme for others in the past. So we'll have to keep an eye on that fly as if we do know it's around. But, okay, so you talk about goals, mindset. Finally got the opportunity to compete in February for the first time in some time. A lot of excitement, feelings of emotion for so many athletes getting that opportunity. Now, you had a great day, late February, part of the Aurora Grand Prix, in which you set the school record for a shot put at 14.97 meters. Did you know you had set the school record at that point? And I guess what was the key to that successful throw?
I mean, if you were there, you would have known I said it. I was
no doubt about
ecstatic, and it was awesome. The setup we had there, it was it's a really nice, like, professional level facility. And the field events were going, and the running events hadn't started yet, so a lot of my teammates were able to watch me. And it was just so cool. I hit that mark, and I knew, but not everyone else knew because they don't all know the distances. But when they heard the mark, and I was just screaming, the throwers were all screaming, everyone was just freaking out. It was such a cool feeling. But honestly, it was just the adrenaline really helped push me. I knew I had the capability to do it. It was just a matter of putting a throw together and just kind of letting it all out there.
And you were also a gold medalist at that Aurora Grand Prix in the weight throw. I guess, between the weight throw, the hammer throw, the shot put, all these events that you're a part of, what's the difference in technique and approach in those various events?
For weight throw and hammer, it's completely different. Shot put and discus, especially if you rotate and shot put, there's a lot of similarities from where you drive your power from, just kind of the steps that you're going through. But hammer and weight are completely different. I mean, if you watch the events, you can tell that a good shot putter isn't necessarily a good hammer thrower. They really have to develop it. They can't just go from one to the other.
And you mentioned, okay, the weight's different from high school to college. So does that maybe change your approach at all and how maybe you go about throwing, like the shot put, for instance, going from 12 to 16 pounds? Does that change maybe how you go about, just adjusting to that weight difference?
Yeah, you definitely need to go through some experimentation with positions that you need to hit because you gotta drive a little more force. If you're trying to drive the same force with a 12-pound shot, you're probably going to throw yourself out of the ring. But you got to just push a little harder with the 16. At the same time, you got to make sure that your form is solid because with the larger implements, there's less room for error.
You've been a 3-time so far this school year, 3-time NAC Student Athlete of the Week. How neat is that for you to receive that kind of recognition in this sport?
It's awesome. We haven't had one in a while from Concordia, so it's a great honor to represent Concordia track and field because I think this year we've had plenty of athletes on the team who have done great things as well. And just to show that Concordia is legit for track, that we have a good program and we're working hard and we're ready for conference.
Well, we mentioned you had a great day at Aurora in February, but how about the day that was April 24th at the St. Norbert College Green Knight Invite? You had 3 career best marks. You broke your own school record in the shot put, a mark of 15.33 meters. I'm going to venture to guess you knew it when you threw it.
For sure.
Champion in the discus throw at 45.18 meters, and then sixth in the hammer throw at 44.29 meters. Take us through that exciting day.
Yeah, so one of the things that's kind of interesting with each track meet is that the order of events is usually a little different, and that can have some sort of effect on your energy levels. So starting off with shot put really got me into a good rhythm, I guess, because shot put's always been my favorite. That's been my go-to. And so to be able to go into that one fresh without any fatigue from the other events was a nice change of pace, because normally shot put had been last at our previous meets. So I kind of got to throw it fresh, and I got a big mark there, and I had a big confidence boost because I took down some pretty big competition there. So I took that into hammer, had my best mark ever, and carried that momentum into discus. Even though there was some adverse weather conditions, I was still able to get some good marks in.
This weekend, you have the NAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships hosted by Wisconsin Lutheran. What are you hoping to accomplish this weekend?
I mean, I would love to bring home 3 golds this weekend. I know I can get the 2 hammer. You never know. I definitely have the capability to put up a first place mark. So that's what I would love to do. But also, I think just from a team aspect, I strongly believe that we can win this year. The past few years, Aurora and Benedictine have had much larger teams and they've dominated, but I think that we're going to surprise some people with how we're going to compete.
Well, let's stretch that out a little bit, because I was going to ask you about the overall landscape now. So you mentioned on the men's side, Benedictine's been pretty dominant in the past. On the women's side, it's been Aurora, who has been pretty dominant in the past, a number of championships for those respective programs. So how do you see this weekend panning out for men's and women's overall track and field for the Falcons?
It's hard to say. I mean, you can look at the heat sheets and try and say, yeah, this is how everyone's projected to score, but it's never going to go that way. You'll have people that'll run out of their mind, people that'll pop out some crazy throws or jump incredibly high. So it's impossible to predict, but I've seen how we've been working, how we're approaching this week. We're working hard and smart. We're making sure that we're ready to go. I know that there's plenty of people who have just been waiting for this moment, and I do see us competing for that first place position on both the men and women's side.
And those heat sheets he talks about will come out on Wednesday. Finally, you're a biomedical sciences major. So I'm sure a lot going on right now for you between track and field, the end of days for school of this 2020-21 school year. Overall, I guess as you continue to power through not only this year but on into your senior year, what are you hoping to ultimately do with that major?
Yeah, so I'm picking up a chemistry major as well. So I'll be double majoring biomed and chemistry. And then I plan to go on to some graduate level PhD research, whether that's in chemistry or biology. I haven't quite decided yet. But there's a lot of interesting areas in science where there's a lot of developments being made, and I know I can make a pretty good impact with the gifts I've been given.
Well, the nice thing is the immediate future right now is focusing on the NAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships this weekend, getting all the best, and hopefully some more school records will be falling.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
That is Gideon Kane. We also thank Gina Followell, our guest in our first segment. Be sure to join us next week. We'll talk with our Dak Sody Award winner and talk baseball. And then in 2 weeks, we wrap up the 2020-21 school year, wrapping it up with the Director of Athletics, Dr. Rob Barnhill. Again, thanks to our guests. Thanks to Sam Dunn behind the scenes. Matt Meadow, thank you for joining us for Falcon Focus on CWFalcons.com.